Making Action Happen is produced in partnership with Action Colorado, featuring members and communities in southern and rural Colorado. With a nonpartisan lens, we discuss the unique public policy needs and issues outside the Denver metro area. Here are your hosts, Sarah Blackhurst and Bear Espinoza.
He's such an interesting animal. Okay, what was your this last week? Because I was getting depressed. And
what's been hard, I think, especially recently, and we'll talk a little bit about this here in a second, but what's really been hard is when we have so many people from different groups right now. And again, we've had a lot of close friends that were never eye to eye on things that now are like on a first name, almost daily call basis. So we have all these great things happening all the time.
Yeah.
And then we turn around and everything we ask for is being blatantly ignored.
Oh my gosh.
So
I think that's the hard part for me.
I think that's what it's been so hard. And so when I say ignored, tell me what you asked a question on our energy committee yesterday. And the question was, has anyone on this call had a single ask as far as an amendment, as far as verbiage, as far as anything? Has anyone had one single thing they've put forward actually been accepted and placed into the drafts?
Yeah, that we see it reflected in the drafts. So, of course, we're talking about the governor's office or energy office, CES draft, I think is the latest acronym for it. It's Clean Energy Statute, and that's what everybody's referring to is the February 27th draft? Yeah, because there's been several drafts, but this is the one that's on bill paper right now. But yeah, we've been having what do we do now? Mm-hmm. Has been the theme of our discussion. Yesterday, I think the big takeaway for me yesterday was that sort of everybody pausing and really assessing all this work that they've been putting in, all of the discussions they've been having, all of that, and not a single bit of it is actually reflected in the language.
And especially what was kind of telling this week to me more than it has been before is even the utilities. We don't know exactly what's happening in some of the larger utilities, but some of the co-ops and some of the municipals are extremely frustrated because nothing. So what that says is that the Public Utilities Commission is actually not listening at all. So for instance, Colorado Springs Utilities.
Yes.
They're in such a hard spot right now. And when we ask the same question to them, their answer was the exact same. We've put forward amendment language. We've put forward suggestions. We've put forward, opportunities we have that we'd be willing to pursue. And none of that has gotten put into anything.
Oh, and I got to call out and say how much I admire Dan Hodges.
Yes.
This is a man who understands this, has gotten into it. But even over the last, I'm going to say 6 weeks, his tone has changed quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And he's just, all we're asking for is relief. Mm-hmm. They did everything that they were supposed to do. And when it came down to it, they changed and they said, they sort of change a goalpost and change all that. And when they really looked at it with like HR1 and with the budget and with what's going on in the world right now, and they said, we cannot make this math. We cannot accomplish this. Basically, what you're telling us is that we have to build something to and finance it and build something to meet these goals, and then turn around and build something again after that. We can't afford to do that. That doesn't make any sense. The best solution is to move this deadline back. We're not saying we're not going to meet this, but we're not going to be able to meet this in the time frame that serves our communities in any way.
And no, I agree. And I think to that exact same point, Excel came out with a similar talking about blackouts. And so I love a good win we've had recently is I think some of the cordialities and bureaucracy is starting to erode away, and people are starting to be a little more honest. And again, you and I have tried to be as honest and upfront as possible. But I think that the rest of our group that we're working with is starting to do the same thing and realize that kind of dancing around the issue and trying to make sure everyone's feelings are accommodated doesn't accomplish anything. So I was really appreciative to even hear that Excel said we do not have the base load to shut these things down with the infrastructure the way it's asked. And so the fact that came out in a large media outlet was great. That wasn't just group conversations we had. So that was really cool to see that that was going in the right direction. And again, back to Dan Hodge, that guy's been so honest with us and so direct with us and so good. But even when he talks to our group, it's like uplifting.
It is. And it's so like a TED Talk.
And so I feel like, again, you made the point that 6 weeks ago, it seems like he was a little bit different, maybe a little more reserved. And through that battle-hardened frustrations, the person that he is and what he brings to the group now is just, I appreciate it.
Me too. So one of the things that is being discussed right now that's frustrating to me is that the PUC reauthorization is different from the governor's bill.
Yes.
I think I've done a good job with everybody that we've talked to. You cannot separate these. Even the experts are saying, we're saying originally, well, these are two separate things. They are absolutely not.
And I might be wrong to say that it's either misplaced trust that these are clean bills that aren't overlapped.
Oh, yeah.
Or if that's maybe something that's a little bit, what we're seeing as a newer approach. But I'm with you. We would like to take every bill on its own merits, for what it says, what it's going for. Its goals are clear, but I don't think we can anymore not layer these three on top of each other.
No,
because what falls through the cracks on one is going to be caught by the next and caught by the next, and so that has been frustrating.
Yes,
but at the same time, man, if we just pay attention to this is probably the new tactic, we might learn a lot. And not that this is going to happen again. Hopefully it doesn't, because that isn't the right way to play this game. But that was also very frustrating. Like you said, if we're trying to count each of them as very separate with different people that wrote them and not say that these people are interacting with each other for a same outcome, that might be naive. So
to tell you the truth, and we've said this several times, if we had an objective and the resources that basically our opponents have right now. And when we talk about three, we're talking about the PUC's, the clean heat that came out, that they made their final decision on in November, and then do that with both the
CUS.
Yes. And I've got to stop for a second because there's a bug crawling down my shirt.
Oh, the wins and losses of nature. The birds are chirping in the background. Sarah's getting molested by insects.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to be outside because we love this place so much, and it helps for us to just, this is what we're doing it for. This is our stage.
Before the inappropriateness.
So
like you said, when we say the three bills, what are we talking about? What are the three bills?
We're talking about clean heat. And that's not a bill. That is a decision that the PUC made.
And that was made back in November.
And
then what was the goal of the clean heat? Let me say that I said that wrong.
Yeah.
What were the people who wrote it? What were their long-term objectives?
Their long-term objectives, frankly and honestly, because that's what we're going to be guilty of, is to get rid of natural gas to heat people's homes in Colorado. That's what that effectively did. But even worse than that is they didn't say, they weren't going to take responsibility for that. They put it on utilities to say, you have to take this much gas out.
You have to remove the option.
You have to remove the option.
Customers.
And that means that 600,000 customers, 600,000 households in Colorado would be forced to electrify. And that's not in any of those cost analysis, by the way. What that actually means for 600,000 households in Colorado.
And so, again, what I have a huge issue with on that is part of what the PUC was supposed to be is control monopolies, right?
Correct.
And take away the option, or let me say that over, is to control monopolies, but not take away customer options.
Yes.
Where customers can choose how they want to spend it. So in my house, I do have natural gas. In your house, you are already electric, right?
Correct.
And you're one of the very few. I'm the majority.
Yes.
So it's going to affect the majority's decision-making opportunities. So even with free market competitiveness, we lose options.
We lose options. And when you lose options, costs go up. That is basic third grade economics, right?
And we learned this from our friends at the union and our friends at the utilities. So even if after time we get down to, I'm at the end of the cul-de-sac and I'm the last one on natural gas, they still have to maintain the entire line all the way out to the street, all the way down. So when they really start whittling this down, we're now impacting how many technicians the utilities have to maintain fewer customers.
Yes.
And so with the electrification, we're seeing the exact opposite. We're seeing the inverse. Now, if we take my whole cul-de-sac and change everything to electric, there's not enough electric techs to fill that need.
Correct.
So with this sweeping declaration, the labor impact was not taken into consideration. The logistics of actually how to operate a utility was not taken into consideration.
Exactly.
And then the very last thing that they took into consideration, but what should have been taken into consideration first, was the overall cost. Because guess what? The ratepayers are still paying for that. The state's not paying for this. The ratepayers are.
The ratepayers are. And I think the real, I don't want to say quite, the real maliciousness of this is that they've been trying to push that solar and wind are cheaper, which can't ever be true, especially now with HR1. Build out all of that. So what they've done is they've taken this lie and they've manipulated the system. They've taken the lie that gas is more expensive, and they've made it true. They've manipulated it to make it true. That's effectively what they've done. And they've done it because they're trying to eliminate, not carbon emissions, by the way. They're trying to eliminate resources. If we were actually talking about reducing carbon emissions, we would be talking about ways to make those resources cleaner. And it's there. We could do that right now without.
And so we'll circle to that point in just a sec, but because you were onto something here, I think. What they're not talking about is, yes, a big debate is we always talk about customer and consumer costs.
Correct.
Right. But the sad thing is how you manipulate the statistics of that is something that is played by, honestly, every side.
Oh.
So we can take that. And
talk more.
And
That's
every single technology that we have at our utilization right now, I think has some ground and has some space. Solar,
yes,
on your home and helping with that has a purpose, has a reason, especially we talk rural. Some of these people that are 10 miles away from their neighbor, that makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot
of sense. Where my fence backs up 8 feet away from the fence from the house behind that, and all of those solar panels trying to work with the existing infrastructure, maybe not so much, right? But again, we have everything. Wind has a place.
Yes.
All of that, geothermal, all of those. I'm not at all against any single technology, but what I would venture to say about this is they say that solar and wind is cheaper, no matter what metric or who's making the numbers. The thing that I have an issue with is the actual duration and shelf life. So when a power plant, and they were bragging, but when I say they, I say the Colorado Energy Office, were bragging about how much of a win it was to take Comanche offline. It was originally built to stay online until 2070. They're bragging that they shaved 30 years off of that, with the remaining costs being close to $1 billion. It's going to go back to the ratepayers of the depreciation of the asset that's left, right? So,
and these are ratepayers in Denver, by the way.
And so we're bragging that we took the shelf life away, but what we replaced it with was solar and wind, which again, good technologies.
Doesn't have the same shelf life.
The shelf life on them are 10 to 20 years at best. And that's not if you're in a high wind area or a high hail area, which we're both, thunderstorms, right?
Right.
So all of those things, which again, if we're utilizing all of these correctly, no matter what statistics you use to say what's cheaper and what's not, we think about what we are paying just like when you buy a house, what's your interest rate for 30 years, for 15 years, when you're buying your car out?
Yes.
If you buy a car and you have a 70-month loan on it, the depreciation puts you upside down.
Exactly.
So if you do just sheer economics of how this works, they're not talking about that. And that's what I think is very frustrating, is everyone's using statistical of, I'm not going to talk about transmission of the solar panels, because that's different.
Right.
And then so, that's me saying I'm on my car payment. Well, I'm not going to pay my insurance on it.
In addition to that, everything you just laid out, also think about now, where are these people who've been served by Comanche, these ratepayers who've been served by Comanche, who are in Denver, by the way.
Correct.
How are they going to get their power now? They're going to have to import it from Wyoming. And I think somebody said it really well the other day, that what Colorado Energy's policy really should be named is the economic development strategy for Wyoming, because they're going to be buying, and there's going to be tariffs on that.
Correct.
And they're chopping at the bit. And at the same time, our labor is being displaced to Wyoming.
So if I don't think we have time, honestly, today to get into labor, because
No,
that's the one.
But that's another show.
But again, because that's so nuanced and so faceted, and I think that's another thing that you and I are either burdened by or lucky to see the facts of how many industries this ripples into.
Oh, both.
So
it's both.
The burden of knowledge of, man, what keeps us up at night is knowing that foreclosure rates are going up and going to continue to go up, especially in our community with the shutdown of Comanche. But so we lose jobs, and we can always say, oh, there's 250 jobs out of Comanche. We're not talking about the jobs that are the peripheral jobs, the support careers, right? And then we don't talk about the family, the spouse, the second generation, right? Grandpa started working at the steel mill. Now his son works out at Comanche, and his grandson doesn't know what he's going to do because it's all going away.
Oh, we're living that.
So that's exactly. So if we talk about displacement of labor,
that is a different show. But I think this is the kind of, to bring it back to the point that we're trying to make here, is when we're laying with the burden of knowledge, and you and I both do this, when we're laying at night trying to think, what do we do about it? Because we're action oriented. What are we going to do about this? How do we keep this runaway train? And everything that we've contributed, all the analysis, and we've done an excellent job of that.
I agree.
And getting the right people to the table, all of that. And it's being completely ignored. Are we actually talking about fixing here? And I think it's the process. The process is broken.
So I agree with you. And so when we look at all three of these,
clean heat, PUC reauthorization, the governor's clean electricity plan, strategy, standard, whatever.
So tell me a little bit about the actual process of just the PUC, so we can simplify it down a little bit, right? So again, when we try to look at it layers, is because we think they're trying to be a safety net for each other. But for explanation and simplification purposes, why is the process of the PUC so wrong?
Let me say,
so to me, where the process started, of how this process of the PUC became screwed up, was the last time it was reauthorized was in 2021. Right. So that had a large influence of the way it was reauthorized, was by campaign promises of the current administration.
So yes,
so that's
the whole idea. But let me start with what the first and most basic problem in my mind is, that you have to be a high-powered, very sophisticated, very specialized attorney to even begin to understand the process.
Yes.
So that's part of the problem. So the only people that can genuinely participate in the process, other than just saying what you think, which they have public comment, but genuinely participate in that process, needs to have a whole crap load of money to do it.
And because
I think
honestly,
that's an industry in and of itself.
it can't even take one lawyer. It needs a group of lawyers.
It needs a
And
group
and
of
these
lawyers.
need, like you said, it's an industry of itself. And I agree with you 1,000%. I think that's something that not enough people are talking about. But again, that might be a whole nother.
That's another one. So that's the first thing, is understanding the process is part of the problem, how it's broken.
And so to me, another part of this problem, again, along that, is who wrote the plan for the reauthorization?
You've got to tell the story. You've got to tell the story. We've been telling it over and over again. This will be a wider audience. Please tell the story.
Which story? I got lots of stories.
Please tell the story about our conversation, and I'm going to name drop here because...
So hold on. To answer the question first, the PUC wrote its own reauthorization, correct?
It wrote its own reauthorization.
So they said, and not even the commissioners.
Let's make sure that we're very clear on it. The PUC sits in the office of the Department of Regulatory Affairs. DORA is overseen by the Attorney General's office. Okay?
Correct.
I want to make sure everybody understands that.
Correct.
Because I also want to make sure that we've brought our concerns about this to the Attorney General.
Correct.
We've brought our concerns to the governor.
Mhm.
We've brought our concerns to the Energy Office. We've brought our concerns to the PUC. We've had conversations with Rebecca White
and the CEO.
And the CEO. We've brought, this is not like we're sitting here and not laying out very plainly over the last year what we want to see fixed. I have to make that very, very clear. So to go back to who wrote the reauthorization, it's really the recommendations that, and they didn't take any of the recommendations of any of the other
like
folks.
We said at the very beginning, this is one of the examples that we're talking about that we tried to provide. What if you do this? And it wasn't just us. There's hundreds of organizations probably across the state that's saying this is what would be better. So again, this is just a great example of what we referred to at the beginning.
Yes. Now, we're talking about, and we had just received the language for the CEP or the CES bill, the governor's energy office bill. And we've been looking at this and every iteration, everything that went out, every conversation, and we still had, given all these things we'd like to, and it was not reflected in the language of the bill that was on bill paper now.
Correct.
Again, not introduced yet, but was on bill paper at that time. We got on the phone with the Colorado Energy Office, and I'm going to say we'll tour on this.
This is the story that we were alluding to earlier.
This is the story.
So we were on our way up to actually testify on some of these bills. We were actually headed to Denver. We were testifying in person, which is actually not as difficult as they try to make it sound. And we can walk everyone through that eventually. But we were on the phone driving up to testify with the Colorado Energy Office. And Will Tour,
yes,
who is also the same person that brags about shutting down Comanche
as his greatest accomplishment
30 years early. So we were asking about, who are the people your constituents, for better or worse. And so I was telling a lot of our people, we talked to our city councilors, we talked to business owners, we talked to county commissioners, we talked to some of the other lobbyists around the state.
Frontline workers.
One of our best allies has been IBEW.
Love that.
Frontline election. So I was asking, like, these are the people we talked to. Can you guys tell us who whatever commission, they use the word commission.
Coalition.
Coalition.
We got to talk to our coalition. We got to run this by our coalition. And we've heard this
and so
at the end of every conversation.
The question is, okay, so I just explained to you what our coalition is. What's yours? And it got real silent.
For about 30 to 45 seconds.
Far too long than any phone call I've ever been on. Got far too silent. And so finally, I asked again, I'm like, no, who is it that you kind of run this through? And I kid you not, their answer was Sierra Club, Western Resource Advocates, and then kind of trailed off. COSA, and then kind of trailed off. I'm like, so we talk to members of the state who live here, who pay taxes, who vote. Those are the people we're talking to. Are you doing anything to go out of your way to talk to any of those people? The answer was, well, Polis was elected twice, so the state has spoken.
I'm going to say that again. Polis was elected twice, so the state has spoken. So they're under the impression, or their rationalization for not actually taking any of our input is because Polis was voted in twice, and so they don't need to listen to us anymore.
So I think that's, because we could go on, I think that's a good place for us to stop right now.
Yeah.
Is when we really go back to the process is broken, and what we're trying to do right now about the process of how some of these decisions are being made, and ensure that the democratic vote is actually what's still in place, instead of the shift to, what are we even calling it? The shift from
legislative to rulemaking
to regulatory bodies.
Regulatory bodies are making these decisions. The legislature is abdicating their authority that we voted them to represent us on. They're saying, we don't really need to represent you anymore. We're just going to give this authority to these commissions. And if this was just happening in energy, I would be less disturbed.
Terrified.
Yep. But what we're being asked right now is to support, I don't know if they even care if we support it or not, but what we're saying is that it's time to reauthorize the PUC and add in all the provisions that give them all this power. They haven't had a performance audit.
Yeah.
This would be the third reauthorization without a performance audit.
Correct. Yeah. Third.
And a major change in the last reauthorization, which was in 21. Mm-hmm. Huge changes. We're not looking at it to see if this is working or if it's not. And we're supposed to be okay with moving forward when the process is clearly broken. And it's not broken for those who are pushing these policies. It's broken for Coloradans.
It's broken for the people who are actually trying to raise their children, pay their bills, own businesses, live happily in this state. That's what it's broken for.
It's broken for those who have to live with the decisions, and the decision makers do not have to live with that. They can move on, and they can be just like Will Tour and say, the greatest thing that I've accomplished is to shut down Comanche.
All right.
And we're going to leave it on that.
Before it gets heated.
The views and opinions expressed on the show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Action Colorado board members or staff. Action Colorado does not endorse candidates for office, but we do support our members. If you are a candidate running for office, or if you are a member of Action Colorado, you have an open invitation to come onto the show. If you have any questions or would like to discuss a topic on the show, or just for our information about joining Action Colorado, please email us at sarah@actioncolorado.org.